Good evening, Mr. Smith. Hope you had a great weekend and an amazing Easter. Um, so my speech is on sexual harassment. So I'm not going to do a whole broad variety. I'm just going to make it specific, such as sexual harassment in a workplace. So just a brief definition is sexual harassment is a type of harassment technique with explicit or implicit sexual overtones, including an unwelcome or inappropriate touching of someone or being verbal about it. And so, statistically, about 79% of sexual assault victims are female, and only 29% are male. And in the workplaces, just to narrow it down again, say a grocery store, most of the time it's the supervisor or the manager who is sexually assaulting the male or female. As you can see, the female number is a lot higher than the male number because it's a lot more males. Just because some males are they're not in the right mindset when they're doing that. They need a coming to Jesus moment, basically. But sometimes when the manager comes up and will be like being sexually harassing or assaulting the person, he'll either basically be saying inappropriate things, maybe touching her inappropriately. And what really baffled me, I didn't know about this, is if the female or male doesn't comply with the sexual assault or sexual action the manager wants, the manager can threaten them with termination and basically fire them. I never knew about that. That really kind of made me sit back and be like, wow, that's not right. That's really bad. That's one of the reasons why the Me Too movement is wanting to shed a lot more light on sexual harassment or sexual assault, because it's a very bad thing, very sinful thing to do. And that's just a few statistics to cover. Now, what someone has to do or say, they can be verbal about it too, is once again touching and being verbal about it. Now, I'm going to use my workplace as an example where I work, and I still work here today. I'm not going to name the place. I'm not going to say what the store is. I'm not going to say who the employees were. I don't want to do that. So one day I was just working. We were closing. I worked in the deli. I was cleaning the salad bar, and the bakery is in view of the salad bar. And one of the bakery employees, she was also cleaning up, preparing to close up the store. And one of my deli coworkers walked over and basically cornered her and took out a wallet and said, "Oh, how much for a good time?" And I overheard this. I was acting like I didn't hear it. I was acting like I was just in my own world, but I did. And I was like, oh, wow. And so the bakery woman got all upset. And before I could even tell my manager about this coworker, she had already told. But the worst thing is, he didn't get fired for it. They still have him working here today, till this day. All my manager said was, don't do it again. And the man tried to put it off as, oh, I was just joking around. It was just a joke. Even though you should, joke or not, you shouldn't joke around about stuff like that, because sexual assault, it's not a joking matter. It happens a lot. It happens everywhere. And it can ruin people's reputation. It can also really humiliate someone. So moving on from what a man has to do to a female, to the females, let's put it in female perspective. It's the same thing. The female can come up to a male and say the same thing that man did, Of course, the man's probably going to be a little bit more defensive to the woman because he's going to be like, why are you asking me this? Get away, get out of my personal space, basically. Because, you know, us as men, we have our own personal space sometimes. And he can easily go report her for it. Now, a brief punishment, going over punishments of sexual assault. Now, if a man is caught sexually assaulting a woman, he gets terminated. Now, I know that contradicts what I said. It's kind of like, but my employee or coworker didn't get terminated. But in most places, such as like, you know, a Harris Teeter, Walmart, Target, they're immediately terminated if they get caught in a sexual assault act. Now, if the woman doesn't really want to press charges, that means he can't really go to jail. He won't spend any time in jail if she doesn't press charges. But if she does, he'll get fired and spend a couple years behind bars. And getting that picture, that reputation of you being a sexual assaulter will make it super, super hard to find future jobs. Because you will have to say in your interview, by law, you have to say, oh, I also sexually assaulted. I'm a sexual assaulter. A predator in an instance, you know. And most likely that job's not going to hire you because they're like, we don't want someone in there like that. So most likely you might get lucky, you might not. You might get a job. You might be jobless maybe for the rest of your life. Just if out of nowhere, miraculously, God puts his hand out and you get a job. Now, punishment for women, I'm going to go back into history. Around the 1700s and the 1800s, when women were considered second class, if they were called out for falsely accusing a man of sexual assault or that on the line, she would not go to jail. She would actually get executed. She'd get hung because women were treated as second class back then. As you can see nowadays, in the 2000s, we're no longer in the 1700s. Women are no longer second class anymore. They're considered first class now. They won't get executed. They'll get charged for false accusations, and themselves will also go to jail because a man's reputation, men already kind of have a reputation on their heads because, you know, as I stated, statistically, 79% of women are sexually assaulted by men. So men already have that reputation of, oh, he's a man, he must always sexually assault women, or he must throw himself on a female all the time, which in cases, that's not always true. There are some really respectful males out in this world that would never do that. Me, myself, I would never do that to a female. So it's very bad to ruin a man's reputation because their reputation's already kind of on the line because of what their other male people have done, and it's putting a reputation on them as if they probably do that. So the woman, of course the man's going to press charges. Of course that woman is going to get a lot of hate by people. Like, why would you ruin someone's reputation like that? He might not get looked at the same again. You might have people pointing fingers like, oh yeah, he actually did do this to her, even though he really didn't. He could have just walked off and be like, I'm not dealing with this. I know what you're trying to do. But sadly today, with media, especially with media, you can edit videos now, cut videos, and make it look like the man actually did something. Even in reality, he didn't. And of course, people are going to believe the media. They're going to believe fake news. That fake news has been a thing for a while, and that man's reputation is just going to go from here and just plummet because of some woman falsely accusing him. That's some punishments between the male and the female of sexual assault. Sexual assault, it doesn't just occur in, workplaces. It also occurs in the military, such as in the Army, Air Force, Navy, and the Marine Corps. Now, they have a very strict rule. If you get caught sexually assaulting anybody, you get court-martialed. You'll get dishonorably court-martialed, and you'll get kicked out of the whatever military branch you're in. They don't take any excuses because it's the military. They don't take excuses. So, sexual assault can happen anywhere, but I just wanted to narrow it down into a workplace such as like a grocery store. So I cover the statistics, what a male or female has to do to someone to be considered sexually assaulting someone, or the punishments that a male will go through, or what a female will go through even till this day, since women are treated differently than what they were back then. So I hope you had a great day, a great Easter break, and I will see you on Saturday on our next WebEx meeting.